Hey y'all, it's Kasia, and today I'm going to show y'all how to do stitch braids or feed-in braids. I'm going to be very detailed since this was a requested video. So I'm just going to start off with the hair stretched, and I'm going to use this tool that I got from Joann's Fabric. It's a thread holder, and I'm just going to be adding a little piece of hair at a time. So each piece is going to get bigger and bigger. I'm starting off with a very small section, but once I get to the bottom row, I'm going to start making the pieces all the same size. So after the first few gradual ones, I'm going to start making them all the same size. So what I'm going to be doing is parting her hair down the middle, and I'm just going to part off one section, put it in a ponytail holder, and I'm going to make a really small part, and it's going to be for the braid that goes down the middle. I noticed that a lot of people use a lot of hair for this part, and it doesn't look sleek, and it doesn't look neat. So make sure you're using a small piece of hair for this part. And if you need to, because the person's hair is thin or whatever the case, you can add in really thin pieces of braiding hair, but I usually don't do that unless I absolutely need to. So here I'm not, and most times I won't. And so I'm just gonna go ahead and braid that all the way down, and then I'm gonna come back when I start on the actual stitch braid, because this is just a regular braid. Okay, so now that I have completed the small braids in between, I did one braid down the middle, and then since she's having 4 braids, she has 2 more like spaces in between her other braids, and I did 2 braids in between those sections. So I am going to be putting Hicks edge control all over the roots of her hair just to smooth it out, and it also makes it easier to braid and for the stitches to come out better. You have to make sure the hair is saturated with a really decent amount of edge control. You can see that her hair is really shiny, so you can tell that it's a decent amount of edge control on it. But I'm just going to start off with a comb to get that perfect part for the first piece. And what I'm going to do is use my comb to make sure that her edges stay swooped. And then I'm going to break that piece into 3 sections. So then I'm going to start to braid. And I'm going to do 1 stitch of braid, making sure the hair is smooth. I'm going to do 1 stitch of braid, and then I'm going to add in that smallest piece of hair underneath my pointer finger and between my pointer finger and my thumb. And I'm going to start to braid again. But before I add more hair, I'm going to get back to that same position, add that piece of hair underneath that was hanging, and then add another piece, the next piece underneath. Then I'm going to braid a stitch back and start to add in her actual hair. So I'm going to be using my fingernail to part out the sections, and I'm going to do the same thing over and over. So I'm going to use a comb to help me. If you don't have fingernails like how I do, you can use a comb to make sure that those parts are clean and smooth. Now, if you are not doing stitch braids, you are still going to do the same process when it comes to adding the hair in. The only difference is you're not going to be parting out the hair. Also, make sure when you're going backwards, you're not adding in any hair that you didn't part out and add into the braid yourself. Don't let any hair get caught underneath, if that makes sense, because your braid won't be smooth and it won't be stitches. So I'm just going to keep parting and adding in the next piece of hair, and I'm going to be adding in the hair underneath the braid, as you can see. So I'm doing one stitch on top, but I'm not adding in hair here. But then when I do the next stitch, I add in the piece that's hanging, and then I add in her real hair, and then I add in the next piece of braiding hair. And I'm just doing the same thing continuously. So this is where it starts to get a little bit tricky because there's a curve. Just do your best with adding in the stitches. They're obviously not going to be perfect at this point because you're kind of braiding downward, but still try to make sure that your parts are as straight as possible. And also make sure that you're gripping the nape of her neck, or the hair at the nape of the neck, tautly but not too tight, because you don't want them to have breakage or bumps on the backs of their hair. And also notice that I am tucking in her real hair underneath the braiding hair as I'm ending out my braid. And so as you can see, you can only see the braiding hair. Her real hair is being tucked in underneath. That allows for the braids to last longer. She actually wore these braids for about 2 weeks, and a lot of times they don't last that long for certain people. So make sure to tuck in the real hair underneath the braid for a longer lasting hairstyle, and also braid all the way down to the end. And when you do the next braids, be sure to use the same amount of braiding hair. Like, use the same amount of braiding hair and separate it as close as possible to how you separated it in the first place. But add an extra piece of hair for length, because the braids on the ends will be longer than the braids in the middle if you don't. And so this is the final product, and I'm going to go ahead and stick down her sideburns how I like it, well, how she likes it, and make sure her edges and everything is sleek. You don't have to do this, this is optional, but yeah, it makes the hairstyle look more uniform to me. And this is the final product of this braid, but I'm just gonna fast forward through the next braid and show you all the final product. Unfortunately, I didn't record the final product right when I did her hair because I forgot. but I did record it a few days later. So I did go ahead and add that at the end of the video so that you all could see what the final results were. This is last minute footage a few days later after having the hairstyle for a while. It's okay. They came out nice though on the bright side.